stuck to my tongue.
Oh, there we go. Up next, a great cult double feature, Planet of the Apes and Escape from Planet of the Apes. It's Advanced Primate Studies on Joe Bob Summer School. We'll be studying chimps, gorillas, orangutans, and guys who look like apes but are actually just really, really hairy guys. Okay, what is this? Week 5? What? Week 5 of Joe Bob Summer School, where we try to answer the question, if a man says something in the woods and there's no woman there to hear him, is he still wrong? I am Professor Joe Bob Briggs, and tonight's class is Advanced Primate Studies, where my lecture on the evolution of the species will be accompanied by the long-awaited cult double feature of Planet of the Apes and Escape from Planet of the Apes. Did you know that human beings have DNA that is 98.4% identical to the DNA of chimpanzees?
No way.
Humans have a couple of 100,000 genes, and only about 2,000 of them are different from the genes of a chimp. The DNA of any two people is 99.9% identical, and the DNA of siblings, with only a handful of genes that are different, is 99.99% the same, which means, of course, that it's possible that my daddy was actually a chimp. And there are also special cases of humans who were descended not from the apes, but from reptilian life forms. These humans are called marketing executives. Now, how is this information useful? It's useful in that it can be used to calculate when man branched off from each of the other species, from the ape to the household sponge. So scientists, even more intelligent than myself, have estimated that it has been 5 million years since we separated from the chimps. With 2,000 genes that are different, the rate of mutation comes out to 2.5 million years per 1,000 genes, or one new gene every 2,500 years. Are you following this? That one new gene showed up in the 1970s, as a matter of fact. Bob Barker got it. Host of Price is Right. Okay, I know what you're waiting for. Let's compare humans to farm animals. The DNA of most farm animals is 70% identical to ours, except in 3 cities in Iraq and 1 neighborhood in East Dallas. And then it's a little higher. With approximately 14,000 genes that don't match, we can calculate that we separated from your basic dairy cow 35 million years ago, which explains the willingness of some people to work in freeway toll booths. Let's compare humans now to, I don't know, beer. Beer contains yeast. The DNA of yeast is 30% identical to that of humans, which means that we have 60,000 genes that are interchangeable with that of fermented barley and hops once quaffed by Teutons in loincloths. And with 140,000 that are different, we know that we separated as a species from beer, class. That's right, 350 million years ago. So let's look at that sponge that I mentioned. We were one with sponges a mere 630 million years ago, unless it has the scrubby side, and then it's 640 million. Many of these sponge genes have survived to the present day in the form of agents. And speaking of simians, we'll be meeting later on tonight with one of the original Planet of the Apes talking chimps. But right now, it's time to start the film that spawned 4 sequels, 2 TV shows, a comic book, and every gas station giveaway or Happy Meal tie-in that ever graced this great country of ours. And from what I understand, there are a lot of people who think this flick is cheesy. I hope there are none of them here. Well, 20th Century Fox didn't want to make it at first because of that very reason. They thought people would laugh when they saw humans having conversations with guys in monkey suits. So the producer, Arthur Jacobs, he put Edward G. Robinson in ape makeup, and he had him play a scene out of Rod Serling's script with Charlton Heston, and they filmed it, and they showed it to all the secretaries, and guess what? Nobody laughed. And it's still great. Charlton Heston plays the astronaut who lands on a planet that looks suspiciously like the desert outside of Vegas, where he's captured by talking apes. It's obviously a classic, so check it out. That's it. We'll do the drive-in totals later. See? 5 million years ago, we were all chimps. Keep that in mind. Bobbio would have had a talk show 5 million years ago. Pauly Shore would sell menswear. Gloria Steinem, she'd shave her legs just to be different. First, there was my TNT Monster Vision website with the famous caption contest, which is still going strong, I might add. Then we added the incredibly sexy Monster Vision t-shirt, coveted by would-be prize winners everywhere. Then we added the Find That Flick contest, in which you can win all kinds of free junk just by knowing the plots of weird movies. And now we proudly present Joe Bob's Summer School website, which is the perfect companion to my summer-long movie lineup on TNT. Well, not the perfect companion. Jennifer Lopez would be the perfect companion. But my point is, I'm slowly building an empire here at TNT. It's no longer possible to take me lightly, and I'll take just as much time as I want with this promo. Okay, to find out your class assignments and guest lecturers, get on the information superhighway and drive to tnt.turner.com/summer school and
enroll at Joe Bob Summer School now at tnt.turner.com/summer school. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
A little slow getting started, in case you haven't watched this movie in a while. But remember, everybody was primed for the apes. See, they were holding off revealing the apes because with a title like Planet of the Apes, everybody in the theater knew the apes were coming. They just didn't know when or how. But Charlton Heston, in what I think is one of his best roles, he had that whole apocalyptic period. You know, he made two of the best sci-fi movies of the late 60s, early 70s. He made this one, and he made Soylent Green. But you can't watch him today without thinking National Rifle Association, right? Current president of the NRA and completely politically incorrect. He actually had the kahunas to speak at Harvard and admit that he had a hand in getting my pal Ice-T dropped from Warner Brothers Records during that cop killer controversy. President of the NRA speaking out against a song about shooting people. You know, the guy just hacks off everybody. I love the Chuckster, but I think he was wrong on that particular one because Cop Killer came out the same year that Unforgiven came out. Clint Eastwood wins an Academy Award for playing a cop killer. Same story. Anyway, my favorite Charlton Heston story is that during the L.A. riots in '92, his friends were all calling him up asking to borrow his guns. So Chuck says, well, why don't you buy one and take some lessons? And they'd say, well, there's this waiting period. And Chuck would say, I know, you voted for it. He was having a real good time. Okay, back to the movie. I want to see some apes, you know? I personally don't think a dang thing is going to happen when Y2K hits, though. But I may invite Chuck Heston to my New Year's Eve party just in case, you know? Because I bet that guy's got some serious ammo on hand. You know who else in Hollywood packs heat, though? Sybil Shepherd. Wouldn't that be scary if you hacked her off? Oh, and by the way, check out these boulders in the next scene here. Tell me what you think of these boulders. Want to win a free video of some obscure horror movie you've never heard of that some guy in West Virginia made in his basement? Of course you do. That's why umpteen jillion people have discovered our Find That Flick contest. If you've never heard of it, forget it. It's too complicated to explain on TV. But you can find out all about it on our MonsterVision website at tnt.turner.com/MonsterVision. And I'll give you one clue. If you're one of those guys who never leaves his apartment except to rent videos, this contest was designed to give heretofore unrealized meaning to your life.
Play the Find That Flick contest at tnt.turner.com/MonsterVision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
How about those terrifying boulders? Were those things made out of Japanese lantern paper or what? Were those the first actual helium-filled killer boulders to be used by Hollywood? They spent all their money on the ape makeup, didn't they? Anyhow, I'll have you know that if you watched this movie any other time on TNT, you would not have been rewarded with those bare buttocks in that scene we just watched. Those are in the summer school version only. Don't you think that's kind of kinky on the part of the TNT censors? What are they thinking? You know, people might be warped by a view of Charlton Heston's buttocks, you know, but the people that watch my show, they'll just think it's normal, right? So, actually, we included those for purposes of psychological realism because think about this. What would you do if you landed on a strange planet and suddenly found a pond? Strip naked and frolic around, right? And Chuck Heston did do his own butt work back in 1968. There no stunt heinies used in the making of Planet of the Apes. But who wants some monkeys here? We want monkeys, right? We want monkeys. We want monkeys. We want monkeys. Back to the flick. Oh, and don't forget, next break I'll be joined by tonight's guest lecturer, Marvin Mishowski, one of the great ape actors of our time. Is Marvin in makeup? Is he? Had it on when he got here. Okay. Marvin's ready. When you enter the caption contest and you don't win, do not write us a letter saying his caption sucks. Let's be good sports about this, okay? After all, the only reason you're so angry is that the stakes are so low. One measly Monster Vision t-shirt. Because if the prize is that cheap and you don't win it, it kind of brings into question your potential in all areas, right? But let's not dwell on that. If you think your caption is hilarious, then come on down to the website and try to make the six-headed jury laugh. That address is tnt.turner.com/monstervision. And here's a tip: think 6th grade humor. We love that.
Try to win a free t-shirt in our caption contest on the one and only Monster Vision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
The famous ape on horseback attack scene from the original Planet of the Apes, where Charlton Heston is clubbed into submission, trussed up like a deer, examined by ape veterinarians, and then given a supermodel to play with. Okay, we have a special guest lecturer for advanced primate studies here at Joe Bob Summer School. You've seen him in countless films and television shows. You've always wondered who he was. Well, now you can put a name to the face. Ladies and gentlemen, the hardest working ape suit actor in show business, Marvin Mishowski.
How you doing, folks? How you doing?
So, Marvin, you work exclusively in an ape suit?
We stopped saying ape suit in the 60s.
What do you say?
I do simian character work.
Oh, okay, simian character work.
Right.
And are you actually in Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, I am, but unfortunately all my lines were cut out. You can still see me from time to time, though. I'm the gorilla who shoots Chuck Heston in the throat.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, thanks.
What was it like making such a historic film? That must have been wonderful.
Well, let me tell you, Joe Bob, it was really hell. I mean, we had to sit in refrigerated trailers between shots so our makeup wouldn't melt. Well, we couldn't eat solid foods, applesauce, milkshakes through a straw. Yuck! In front of a mirror, no less. If we wanted to smoke, we had to use cigarette holders. I looked like an old coward in an ape suit for a while. I must have dropped 20 pounds during that gig. See, that's why the motion picture studio should always go with professional simians. A lot of people think you can just pick up some kid off the street and throw an ape suit on him. What do you get what you pay for when you do that? A kid off the street.
I understand what you mean. Was this your first film? I know you've made a lot of films. But
I've worked as an extra for years before this. You know the Tarzan films?
Yeah, Tarzan.
Anything with jungle themes, I was in it. We would all hang out at this one little coffee shop on Sunset Boulevard, the Hamburger Hamlet. In those days, the casting directors would just come by, grab a few of us, we'd have our coffee, we'd leave a couple of coins for the lady, they'd drive us out to the set.
And these were all apes that hung out at the same
Sure, what do you think? I mean, you wouldn't believe how much ape work there was back then. There was an ape job every week of the year. That's 52 ape jobs.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk more to ape actor Marvin Mishowski at the next break. But right now, let's get back to the movie. And can I get you something to drink, Marvin? I noticed you got a little TMJ thing going on there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I can't control it sometimes.
Okay.
A Perrier would be really nice about now.
Perrier, okay, sure thing. Can we give Marvin a Perrier?
With a straw.
A straw for Marvin.
Have you got the can with the lime in it, the lemon in it?
Okay, lime Perrier with a straw for Marvin.
So delicious. How do they do that?
I don't know. How are we going to... Well, you'll show me when we get it.
Okay.
Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
That's Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter as the peacenik chimpanzees Cornelius and Zira. Keep in mind that this film was a social statement in 1968, the era of Nixon, Vietnam, the counterculture. It's not just about guys in monkey suits. No offense, Marvin.
None taken, none taken. The message in this film is what makes it a timeless piece of art.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
We're here with Marvin Mishowski, an actor who works exclusively in ape roles. And I got to ask you this. Speaking of Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter, how did you feel about their getting the lead ape parts in this movie?
You know, in the ape community, it didn't bother us. We knew they had to have big stars for the two lead apes. But what I didn't think was great was that Woody Parfrey, you know, for example, he wasn't a wise choice.
Woody Parfrey? Woodrow Parfrey.
Yeah, the guy who plays Maximus, the ape's political leader.
Oh, yeah.
So many of us have dedicated our entire careers and lives to this area. And don't get me wrong, Parfrey is a fine actor, a good actor. But I think he's only done a couple of previous simians, and that was over at, in some B movies over at the old Republic studios. They burnt down. I don't know if you knew that. He really didn't know his business.
Oh, I take it you maybe wanted the role of Maximus for yourself, or?
Well, I read for it. Eddie G. Robinson had the courtesy to turn down the role of Dr. Zaius one day in that makeup chair, and he said, "Let me out of here, boys." And he was out, you know. He was a real professional, Eddie. I loved him. And then Kim Hunter said she spent a lot of time at the L.A. Zoo studying how chimpanzees kiss. But let me tell you, that's not the way chimps kiss. I mean, it was close, but it makes my blood boil thinking of how many serious ape craftsmen were sitting around a coffee shop when they could have been, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how'd you get started doing this kind of work? This is very distinctive work.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, it was my mentor, Charlie Tubner.
Charles Tubner from the original King Kong.
You got it. We met when he was still doing off-Broadway stuff. I mean, I was just a kid getting coffee, you know, making myself useful backstage. One day he came in the dressing room and he saw me admiring his fur.
Yes?
And he said, yeah. And he said, "Kid, I see you're admiring my fur. You could make a lot of big money in this business if you know how to wear that fur." Of course, that was before everything went high-tech. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to cut you off there because I really want to get into that area of high-tech apes.
Yeah,
and,
please.
Right now, we need to get back to the movie. Let's go back to Planet of the Apes.
Good.
And how much, speaking of fur, you have a lot of fur.
Yeah.
How much fur have you gone through over the years?
Well, you're looking at it, pal.
Really?
Yeah,
this is it.
Yeah,
for all those roles.
This is
dry
Tubner's
cleaning
original
bills,
fur. I got it from the New York dressing room.
Really?
Yes.
The dry cleaning bills must be hell.
Oh, tell me about that. I got to have a cedar closet wherever I stay. That'll run up your hotel bill. They don't have them at the Days Inn.
Okay, fire away. I can take it. Hit me with your best shots. You're going to reduce me to tears, aren't you? You're going to emasculate me with your mail, as usual. But if you got something to say about tonight's movie, or me, or the mail girl, or the war in Kosovo, then I invite you, because I am a masochist, to contact me at my personal email address, monstervision@turner.com, or you can visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision and send a crushing, mean-spirited email from there. Or you can even do it the old-fashioned way by sending a letter to Monstervision, care of TNT Programming, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. So I've given you 3 ways to nuke me. I would remind you, God is watching what you write.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
The lovely Linda Harrison as Nova with that animal skin bikini prominently displaying her 2 enormous talents. Yes, Marvin, I agree with you. Linda was Miss Maryland 1965, and boy, did she deserve it. She also got first runner-up in the Miss America pageant, but Miss Ohio said she was a Sunday school teacher, and Linda said she wanted to be an actress. So guess who won the contest? Linda was kicking herself for being so stupid when an agent told her he could get her a contract at 20th Century Fox, and once she got there, like a smart cookie, she started dating Richard Zanuck, the head of the studio, and she played the part of Zira in the screen test that I talked about earlier, but I'm guessing that she didn't do too well since she ended up playing a part with no lines. You know all about that, don't you, Marvin?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Our guest, ape suit actor Marvin Mishowski. He's still here with us. And Marvin, you were telling us how roles for guys in ape suits have dwindled.
It's something terrible. Nowadays, they use all these computerized apes. It all started back in '76 when Dino De Laurentiis, remade King Kong. He used a guy in an ape suit and then told people it was a mechanical ape. What a slap in the face that was. In King Kong Lives, then he gave the suits credit, but the movie was such a bomb that it did us a lot more harm than good. You know what I mean? That's when we started forming our own union.
Really? You guys are organized? You have...
AG.
What?
AG.
What?
AAG. Ape Actors Guild.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, you look at a movie like Mighty Joe Young, a remake from last year, maybe 10% of that movie is actual ape artists. You know how many of us were in that audition? You know how many?
I can imagine.
It was like an aerial view of the closing of Saigon.
Really?
Yeah, that's right.
That's got to be painful, and nobody gets a job.
Oh, it's terrible. And they only pay scale for under 5 contracts.
Apes with fewer than 5 lines, under 5 contracts.
You understand this, don't you? That's good.
Oh, I guess all ape roles are under 5 lines. So
yeah. We tried to get the definition of a line change to any audible noise. For example, if I do this, They really get hot doing that. Yeah. That should be a line, though, you know? Or this.
Yeah.
Woof, 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 woof. That should really be 2 lines.
Really?
Just for the wear and tear of my vocal cords.
I see what you mean.
Plus the embarrassment.
Because how do you define a line? And that's a lot more taxing than a line like, you know, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
You are some impressionist, you know? Have you ever tried to just do that, maybe?
Okay, Marvin.
Just because we're apes doesn't mean we don't have mortgages like everybody else. We need the money,
Okay, Marvin, thanks for being here. You're
Sure
getting
thing. And
sarcastic.
the working conditions, sometimes they want to herd us up in the one big dressing room. Nothing to sit on but
we're
a
out of
tire
time, Marvin,
hanging from a
but
rope.
thanks a lot. Don't be so angry about it.
Yeah, well, on Planet of the Apes, we had trailers at least. We
You
could
know,
cool
I
off.
would love to see a better grade of ape movie
Thank
made,
you.
Marvin. Glad you were here.
Thank you.
Thank
You know,
for
and
being
Gorillas
here.
in the Mist, that was a disaster. Sigourney Weaver kept asking why there weren't any real gorillas. She wanted us to bring in scabs from Kenya or some damn place like
All
that.
right,
so,
well,
so she can make a big hit with the environmentalists and the Green Party.
Marvin,
That's
what
right.
do you're obsessed with it. What do you do
Well,
between...
what would you be obsessed with? This is my life.
What do you do between pictures, Marvin?
Well, that's what
'Cause
happened to me.
it's-
You know what happened to me last week down at the unemployment? The lady comes up to me and she says, what are you doing? Why don't you do some other job, some other work? This is my only work. I'm an ape simian person.
I understand that. Okay, calm down.
All right, I'm calm now. I'm sorry, Joe Bob. Sometimes it's just so hard to maintain a livelihood. You know, with 2 kids in private schools, it's not easy.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Rusty the Mail Girl here, inviting you to visit our Monster Vision website. This is the place to get the scoop on zombies, ghouls, road warriors, or whatever happens to be the late-breaking story on this week's show. Check out our Playmate of the Week, or try your luck at the Monster Vision Caption Contest and win a free T-shirt. Or visit Joe Bob's mailbag page where you can see your favorite fan mail of the week. To find us on the internet, go to tnt.turner.com/monstervision. I'll be waiting.
Visit the Monster Vision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Okay, rule number 1, when you're captured by a hostile breed of orangutans whose hobbies include performing human lobotomies, don't tell them you're from outer space, okay? Make friends with them first, have a few cocktails, play a little pool, then tell them that you flew there in a metal thing that now you can't find because it's lying at the bottom of a lake. This movie is based on a French novel by a guy named Pierre Boulet, the same guy who wrote The Bridge Over the River Kwai. Rod Serling wrote the first draft of the screenplay, and you'll really notice the old Twilight Zone touch there at the end. And then he went off to work on something else, so Michael Wilson took over. Michael Wilson had been blacklisted, so between him and Rod Serling, there's all kinds of social messages in this baby. The book has the apes living in modern cities, watching the 30th century version of Leave It to Beaver and stuff, but they couldn't afford to build those kind of sets, so they turned it into a primitive world. And if I say anything else at this point, I'll give it all away, so let's move along with Planet of the Apes. Hi, I know you found me buck naked in the woods, but I'm from outer space. Where's my spaceship? Well, you know that really deep lake you have? It's in there. See, that always goes over well, doesn't it, you know? We got people over in the Terrell, Texas Lunatic Asylum who've been telling that same story for years.
Think you're funnier than Joe Bob? Who isn't, right? But can you prove it? Then enter the Monster Vision Caption Contest and try to make the 6-headed jury laugh. And no, I'm not one of the heads. What do you win if you slay them with your caption? How about this incredibly collectible T-shirt? To play, go to tnt.turner.com/monstervision and look for the Caption Contest link. And may the best man, woman, or mutant win. Everyone's eligible. Oh, except Joe Bob. We've heard enough from him, don't you think?
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free T-shirt at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
That's the great Shakespearean actor Maurice Evans as the evil Dr. Zaius. And I got to say, the private meeting he had with Charlton Heston, that was the first intelligent conversation of the movie. The guy's a jerk, but he's the only clear thinker of the bunch, as far as I'm concerned. I should mention that Maurice Evans was Elizabeth Montgomery's father in the TV show Bewitched. I think the character's name was Maurice also. Maurice playing Maurice. Was his name Maurice or was that Paul Lynde? No, Paul Lynde was Uncle Arthur, always showing up in the ice bucket or someplace. Somebody was Maurice. Anyhow, as Marvin was telling us earlier, Edward G. Robinson was originally going to play the part of Dr. Zaius, but he had a weak heart, and he thought sitting in the makeup chair 6 hours a day would pretty much do him in, so he bailed out. Because we all know tragic examples of fatal heart attacks caused by excessive makeup. Okay, back to the movie. This movie took so many people to do the ape makeup, by the way, and the ape hair and the ape wardrobe, that the other studios actually had to put their movies on hold. Every union makeup person in the whole town was employed on this one movie, so nobody dared to make a movie. Because think about it. Betty Davis has a zit, right? Nobody to take care of it. Who wants to deal with that?
Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Planet of the Apes on TNT.
This movie gets a little scarce on the details at times, but it actually worked really well for the series because it left all these plot holes open for the sequels. And don't forget, we've got Escape from the Planet of the Apes right after this, speaking of sequels. And did you guys know that Fox is remaking Planet of the Apes? Oliver Stone was the first director they hired. I'm sure he would have had a pretty cool take on Planet of the Apes, you know. Oliver brought in Arnold Schwarzenegger to play the Charlton Heston role, and then Oliver dropped out of the project, and Schwarzenegger tells 20th Century Fox it'd be okay with him if they hired Philip Noyce, the director of Patriot Games. And then Philip Noyce had to do something, so he drops out. Oh, he had to do The Saint. And so Fox brought in, get this, Chris Columbus, the director of Home Alone. So now it looks like it's pretty much shot to hell, you know, till James Cameron comes on board. And then he bails out of it, and Fox starts offering it to every director in town until Michael Bay of Armageddon fame takes it on. And so he's got it now. Nobody really knows, though, if Schwarzenegger's still attached to it. And I didn't even cover all the writers involved. Okay, guess what? It's time for the classic conclusion to Planet of the Apes. Attached. That's what they say in Hollywood. You know, Schwarzenegger's attached. You know, they don't know if he's still attached to the film. It makes it sound like they have a big metal chain around their neck, you know. Okay, you're attached now. No getting out of this one. That famous final line of the movie we just watched, "God damn you all to hell," that was considered a controversial line in 1968, and 20th Century Fox wanted the line changed to simply, "Damn you all to hell," but Charlton Heston fought tooth and nail to get the line in the movie as written, and his argument was that he was literally asking God to condemn the human race. And so the studio said, yes, okay, this was one of those pure movie moments where that is the true spiritual meaning of that line. And in fact, that's also why it's in our version. Okay, next up, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. But first, I want to remind you that next week here at Joe Bob Summer School, it's Cinema Studies 101. Yes, we're going back to a freshman level course because you guys started freaking out on me. Professor Joe Bob, do we have to know this for the test? Yes, you have to know this for the test. Professor Joe Bob, can I write 2 papers and skip the final? No, you may not write 2 papers and skip the final. Memorize my every word, okay? Sheesh. Anyway, we're also going out on our first field trip next week to the film capital of the world, Baltimore, Maryland, where we'll hang out with our guest lecturer, John Waters, and compare his musical Hairspray to George Lucas's American Graffiti, all while doing the pony and the mashed potato. Now, don't panic, but Escape from the Planet of the Apes is not the second movie in the Ape series, it's the third. But I'm not even going to bother telling you what the second one was about because it's all explained in this one, and they kind of work it into the plot, and I don't want to ruin any suspense that they can eke out of this. So let's just say that it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like Star Trek 4. Remember the one that everybody liked best because the Enterprise goes to modern-day San Francisco and starts beaming up whales and stuff? Well, it's like that, but without whales and without beaming up. And it's not in San Francisco. But you know what? Let's just do the drive-in totals and get it started. We have 2 dead bodies, 4 dead apes, no breasts, and no buttocks, of course, 1 upset dinner tray. That's about it. Not a whole lot of numbers. Because you know why? It's the kinder, gentler Planet of the Apes. They got kinder with this series. Lots of Roddy McDowall, Kim Hunter scenes. yeah, you know. And let me tell you, they are starting to get on my nerves already. You know, that Kim Hunter's little librarian voice. You know. But I give this 3 stars, maybe 3.5, since it is an Apes movie, and that counts for something. Okay, roll film. And we'll be looking at Darwin's origin of the species during this movie, as well as proving my own theory on the survival of the dumbest. I got a $3,000 grant from our sister school, the University of Arizona at Ajo, and I've been doing research in Walmarts across the South. And I got my notes somewhere right here. Got my notes. Here they are. Professor Joe Bob is poised to shock the world with this stuff. Okay, fire away. I can take it. Hit me with your best shot. You're going to reduce me to tears, aren't you? You're going to emasculate me with your mail, as usual. But if you got something to say about tonight's movie, or me, or the mail girl, or the war in Kosovo, then I invite you, because I am a masochist, to contact me at my personal email address, monstervision@turner.com, or you can visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision and send a crushing, mean-spirited email from there. Or you can even do it the old-fashioned way by sending a letter to Monstervision, care of TNT Programming, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. So I've given you 3 ways to nuke me. I would remind you, God is watching what you write.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Boy, Sal Mineo didn't last long, did he? That was him as the ape that got whacked by the gorilla in the next cage. Sal Mineo basically got famous for getting killed, you know? For those of you who don't know your Sal Mineo history, he was shot by the cops and died in James Dean's arms in Rebel Without a Cause. And then 20 years later, when he was still only 37 years old, he was stabbed to death in real life at his apartment in West Hollywood. There's always been this mystique about him, especially since both of his fellow rebels, James Dean and Natalie Wood, also died tragically. So the movie we're watching was Sal Mineo's last movie. And what happens in the first 10 minutes? He gets killed. So weird. Okay, you ready for my theory on the survival of the dumbest? Here it is. If the building blocks of evolution consist of very small, fortuitous novelties, as Darwin claims, there must have been a stage at which the incipient organ had no recognizable function. Are you following this? And it would therefore have conferred no selective advantage. Therefore, useful organs must have developed with a view to the function they would eventually serve. Now, what does this mean in layman's terms? It means that because their genes have an eye on future evolution, people with underdeveloped brains procreate at a much more prolific rate than people with advanced brains. And the proof is, go to the baby food aisle at any Walmart. Look at them. Some of these mamas have giant little 8 little drool monsters hanging off the shopping cart, and they're pregnant with twins, and they're buying SpaghettiOs by the gross. QED. Okay, back to the movie. My theory. QED are quad erot dominatrix, meaning it is proven. Dominatrix proved it by squatting on her quadrant.
Rusty the Mail Girl here, inviting you to visit our Monstervision website. This is the place to get the scoop on zombies, ghouls, road warriors, or whatever happens to be the late-breaking story on this week's show. Check out our Playmate of the Week, or try your luck at the Monstervision caption contest and win a free t-shirt. Or visit Joe Bob's mailbag page where you can see your favorite fan mail of the week. To find us on the internet, go to tnt.turner.com/monstervision. I'll be waiting.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Is Colonel Taylor alive? Of course not, because Charlton Heston was not doing any more sequels, was he? Okay, do you gals recognize that science advisor guy, Dr. Hosline? That's Eric Braeden, big star of The Young and the Restless. You know, I guess I shouldn't assume it's just the gals who watch soap operas, huh? Because that was kind of a sexist statement, you know. Have you gals seen this guy? Because there are guys who watch soaps, and they're not all gay either. They're in touch with their feminine side. Those are the guys who take their girlfriends shopping, and they say, Oh, honey, if you're going to get that DKNY dress, you should definitely get the Prada bag to go with it. To tell you the truth, I can't really relate to that. So, okay, let's get back to the movie. Y&R, they call it, right? Young and the Restless. Who thought of that name? The Young and the Restless. Sounds like Crips and Bloods, doesn't it? Eric Braden's been on that show for 19 years. He ain't so young anymore. Might still be restless, but 19 years. In that time, 2,300 species became extinct. You know how I know that? See, I can't go to the zoo anymore. I went to the zoo. It was depressing. Everything is, while you're standing here, 5 species have been eliminated from the planet. You know, you're like trying to look at the elephant. This elephant will no longer exist 20 years from now. You know, did you know that we're destroying 540 square miles of rainforest every day? Bullfrogs are being wiped out. After a while, you know, you're depressed. You know, you just go, forget it. I feel terrible. Let's go to Six Flags. You know, all the little girls are crying. Why do they do that, you know?
Think you're funnier than Joe Bob? Who isn't, right? But can you prove it? Then enter the Monster Vision Caption Contest and try to make the 6-headed jury laugh. And no, I'm not one of the heads. What do you win if you slay them with your caption? How about this incredibly collectible t-shirt? To play, go to tnt.turner.com/monstervision and look for the Caption Contest link. And may the best man, woman, or mutant win. Everyone's eligible. Oh, except Joe Bob. We've heard enough from him, don't you think?
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
So the apes become big Hollywood celebrities. Have we taken this concept just about as far as it goes? I think so. Did you catch the scene they played homage to in Pretty Woman? The big Rodeo Drive shopping trip? And the bubble bath. Remember Julia Roberts in the bubble bath? And in fact, now that I think about it, they even used the same hotel, the Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Beverly Hills. Not that I've seen Pretty Woman. You know, I mean, I may have seen part of Pretty Woman, you know, when I was flipping channels, you know, during halftime or something. Hey, Roddy McDowell and Kim Hunter picked out some crazy outfits, didn't they? Let's get back to the flick. You know, they put Julia Roberts in those patent leather thigh-high boots, and they just get sucked in, right? But does anybody get Notting Hill? You know, Julia Roberts moons around this bookshop for 2 hours, and Hugh Grant stutters a lot. It's a love story, right? You're supposed to have complications, right? Didn't Aristotle say that? You got to have complications in a love story. They kiss, they don't kiss. She comes to dinner, she doesn't come to dinner. Does anything ever happen in that movie? Don't you think she should just go back to being a hooker? We like that.
Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Okay, here's what I don't understand. Zira is drunk and pregnant. So she starts spilling the beans about the future, right? Because the evil Dr. Hossline plies the pregnant woman with liquor. Oh, those carefree 70s, you know? Nowadays, a pregnant woman just looks at a glass of wine and everybody freezes in their tracks, right? No alcohol, no cigarettes, no sushi. What else can't they have, you know? Meanwhile, our mothers were all on their 3rd martini before dinner was on the table when they were pregnant with us, right? Anyway, we don't advocate getting drunk while you're pregnant or operating a forklift while you're drunk. But I have to say that, or the Standards and Practices Department will be lobbing bricks in my direction. Okay, she says the world was destroyed in 3955. But I noticed in the first movie, Charlton Heston landed in 3978. 23 years after the world was destroyed. These time travel things, they're always hard enough to understand because what they're doing here is the Terminator plot, basically. Somebody destroys the world in the future, so we have to kill his ancestor today. Or somebody saves the world in the future, so we have to kill the ancestor of the guy who kills him in the future. Are you following this? Both ways, we're violating the 2nd law of thermodynamics. But radical ape feminist Kim Hunter doesn't care about that. So, back to the movie. Isn't there a scene in Rosemary's Baby when Mia Farrow tells the neighbors she's pregnant and they break out a bottle of champagne to celebrate? See? People watch that scene now and they just hyperventilate. You know? Of course, her neighbors are demons, aren't they? So, and her baby is the devil, so that makes sense. You know, wonder what kind of bubbly the devil drinks.
Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Okay, right there in that scene, we got the actual explanation of how apes learn to talk. A plague killed all the cats and dogs, so people took apes as pets. And the apes paid really close attention. Did I hear that right? And even after just 200 years, the apes could wait tables and stuff. So, like, dogs have been domesticated for a couple thousand years, and so far they've evolved up to frisbee catching, right? And speaking of highly evolved species, it's time for the TNT Mail Girl to bring us another letter from our most captive audience in what we call Joe Bob's Jailbreak. Welcome, Rusty.
You know, my dog is way more evolved than that.
Oh, yeah? More evolved than frisbee catching? Does he talk?
No, but he...
Can he cook?
No, he can't cook, but...
I know, can he drive? But,
No, he can't drive, but he does dance.
Do I have to hear this?
Yes. He puts his big paws on my shoulders, and then we dance around the living room. It is so sweet.
You do know you're giving pet owners a bad name, don't you?
Hi, Sweet Pea. Here's a letter. It's from Clinton Graham at the Farmington Correction Center in Farmington, Missouri.
Your dog's name is Sweet Pea?
No, that's his nickname.
What's his name?
Cutie Pie.
Dear Joe Bob, hello from the land where men are men and the sheep are nervous. Yes, that's right. Of course, I'm talking about Farmington, Missouri. This town is so close to the Ozark Mountains that just the simple sound of a zipper is a certain way to cause a stampede in any local farm. Joe Bob, I am in prison in this Monster Vision-like town. Now, I've had this ongoing argument with a CO that resides in this town, and, well, who better to ask about the all-important questions of life than a true country genius guru such as yourself, so here goes. If you live in Farmington and your mom and dad get a divorce, are they still brother and sister? Now, I'm pretty sure Ted won't let you read a letter like this over the air, as if TNT's viewers have so much class, but I will be eagerly awaiting your answer to this baffling question, and believe me, an entire gene pool hangs in the balance. Sincerely, Clinton Graham, Farmington Correction Center, number 307123, and ask Rusty the Mail Girl if she'd go out with me if I promise to quit clubbing baby seals. When I parole, of course.
Clinton, you better be kidding.
Well, if he's not, you only have to go out with him, and then he'll never do it again. Yeah. That's what he said.
Oh, boy, that's a no-win scenario, isn't it?
And by the way, Clinton, I sent your letter to the Farmington Chamber of Commerce. They'll be using it in their next tourism brochure. Okay, Farmington Correction Center, or FCC, is a high-custody male facility with an operational capacity of 2,725 inmates. Big place. It houses the Community Therapeutic Center, the Farmington Treatment Center, I don't know what these things are, the Regimented Discipline Program, and the Social Rehabilitation Unit. So it sounds like to me you can get a back rub after your whooping. That's what, that's what it sounds like, right? Community Therapeutic Center and Regimented Discipline Program. So, Clinton, appreciate the support, bud. Free your mind and your butt will follow. And you know, if you really want to dance, by the way, Rusty, I'm right here.
Well, I've seen what you're capable of, so...
You don't think I'm a good dancer?
Compared to my dog?
How hard can it be? You dance and I put my paws all over you, right? Okay, you screwed up again, didn't you? It's your 5th year in junior college. Your life has no possibility of improving. Not true if you attend yet another session of Joe Bob's Summer School. 9 brain-expanding Saturday nights, good for actual credit at Southern Arizona State Community College at Ajo. But you need to enroll your hiney. To register, you got to go to the summer school website and get a syllabus. Plus, you'll be able to see who some of our guest lecturers are this summer. And you'll also get a sneak peek at a few of the final exam questions. And you can even include yourself in our summer yearbook, listing your worst subject and favorite hobbies. The internet address for Joe Bob's Summer School is tnt.turner.com/summer school. That doesn't mean you can skip the dang class. Of Of course, even academic probation is fun at Joe Bob Summer School, Saturday nights on Turner National Technical Institute.
Visit Joe Bob Summer School at tnt.turner.com/summer school. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Ricardo Montalban just turns up in the strangest places, doesn't he? As the benevolent, New Age, animal-loving Mexican circus owner. But you know, if I was at the studio meeting, I'd say, hey, if we're going to hire a benevolent, New Age, animal-loving Mexican circus owner, we got to go for Ricardo. And while we're talking about the cast, how about that brilliant performance by the female doctor, Bradford Dillman's sidekick? Do you remember her at this point? Producer's wife. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the producer of all the Planet of the Apes movies was Arthur P. Jacobs, and I guess after Richard Zanuck's girlfriend got a part in the first movie, Mrs. Jacobs wanted a part too, so Natalie Trundy, that's her name, she actually has the honor of having played a human, an ape, and a mutant at different points in the series, because the second movie, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, is the one with the mutants. We didn't really cover that, but that's where Taylor and Nova discover a bunch of humans who went underground and turned into mutants after everything got nuked. And then Charlton Heston disappears because he didn't want to do the sequel, but the studio convinced him that he owed him, so he agreed to be in it for like 5 minutes till another astronaut lands on the Planet of the Apes and takes over, and then Charlton Heston pops up again right at the end, and then the whole planet blows up. Does that give you the general idea? All right, back to Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Did you know that Charles Darwin spent 8 years studying barnacles alone? Just thought I'd throw that in there. Barnacles haven't really won any evolutionary races so far, have they? Nobody will be making Planet of the Barnacles anytime soon, but because some of these species are scary, but a barnacle, I think we could take them, right? Plus, they need a new name, you know, barnacle. Just doesn't say survival of the fittest, does it? First, there was my TNT Monster Vision website with the famous caption contest, which is still going strong, I might add. Then we added the incredibly sexy Monster Vision t-shirt, coveted by would-be prize winners everywhere. Then we added the Find That Flick contest, in which you can win all kinds of free junk just by knowing the plots of weird movies. And now we proudly present Joe Bob's Summer School website, which is the perfect companion to my summer-long movie lineup on TNT. Well, not the perfect companion. Jennifer Lopez would be the perfect companion. But my point is, I'm slowly building an empire here at TNT. It's no longer possible to take me lightly, and I'll take just as much time as I want with this promo. Okay, to find out your class assignments and guest lecturers, get on the information superhighway and drive to tnt.turner.com/summer school and
enroll at Joe Bob Summer School now at tnt.turner.com/summer school. Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
How come the apes are wandering around the Anaheim oil fields with no disguise? You know, at least a hat or a scarf. Maybe a little trim on the sideburns. I mean, it's not going to be that hard to spot them, is it? You know, I'm in pursuit of the apes at this time. Could I have a description? Yes, they are ape-like in appearance. You know? This whole ending seems kind of thrown together, you know? They spent more time on the dang shopping trip and that grape juice plus bit than they are on this whole escape that's going on. It's the whole point of the movie. The title even, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. But I don't want to ruin it for you because it's almost over and it's still a classic. So let's go, another great finale. Just an attempt to fit in, you know? A pair of glasses and a baseball cap, you know? Gold's Gym t-shirt, I don't know.
Back to Joe Bob Summer School and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on TNT.
Pretty good trick ending, huh? All Planet of the Apes movies have to have a trick ending. It's the law. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, the wimpy one of the series, would be followed by 2 more sequels, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, where little Milo grows up, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes, where Milo has a midlife crisis and gets a toupee and leaves his wife for a younger woman. So when are we going to have that all-night dusk to dawn Planet of the Apes marathon? That's what I want to know. We got to do that. Okay, don't forget Cinema Studies 101 next week at Joe Bob Summer School with our first field trip all the way to Baltimore, Maryland, where we'll chat with the great writer-director John Waters, and we're going to be watching his big crossover hit film, Hairspray, and then George Lucas's pre-Star Wars autobiography, American Graffiti. That's it for me, Professor Joe Bob, reminding you that it may be your sole purpose in life just to serve as a warning to others. Did you guys hear the one about the local business that puts a help wanted sign up in the window? And the sign says, must be able to type, must be good with computers, and must be bilingual. We are an equal opportunity employer. Well, after a little while, this dog trots up to the window, and he sees the sign, and he goes inside. He looks at the receptionist, and he wags his tail, and then he walks over to the sign, and he looks at the sign, and he kind of whines. And the receptionist gets the idea, and she goes to get the office manager. Well, the office manager looks at the dog, and he's surprised, to say the least, but the dog looks determined, so he leads the dog into his office. When they're inside, the dog jumps up on the chair and stares at the manager. The manager says, I can't hire you. The sign says you have to be able to type. So the dog jumps down, goes over to the typewriter, and proceeds to type out a perfect letter. He takes out the page, he trots over to the manager, and he gives him the page, and then he jumps back up on the chair. The manager's stunned. But he tells the dog, well, the sign says you have to be good with a computer. So the dog jumps down again, he goes over to the computer, he proceeds to enter and execute a perfect computer program that works flawlessly the first time. Well, by now the manager, he's totally dumbfounded. He looks at the dog and he says, well, I realize you're a very intelligent dog and you have some interesting abilities, but I still can't give you the job. Dog jumps down and goes to a copy of the help wanted sign, puts his paw on the part that says an equal opportunity employer. And the manager says, yes, but that sign also says that you have to be bilingual. The dog looks at the manager calmly and says, meow. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. A traffic cop sees a blonde in a convertible with a full-grown lion in the seat next to her. He drives up behind her and she pulls over, and the cop says, shouldn't you take that lion to the zoo? And the blonde agrees with him and she drives away. Next day, the cop sees her again. She still has the lion in the car. So he drives up behind her and she stops. And the cop says, I thought you were going to take him to the zoo yesterday. And the blonde says, I did. He liked it so much that today I'm taking him to Six Flags.